What do you get when comedy goes into the realms of thrillers and horror? You get a damn good film. What's going on, friends? Logan Myerz here for Cinephellas.com to review John Krasinski's directorial debut, A Quiet Place. Shh, shh, shh. Don't talk. Don't make a move. Don't make a sound, or we're all dead. A Quiet Place takes place with a family. John Krasinski and Emily Blunt are the parents. They have 3 children, and they're in a world that's surrounded by creatures. You don't know if there's a lot of people alive. But all we know is that if you make any sound, these creatures will come after you and kill you. From the beginning of this film, it really keeps you involved and it keeps you on the edge of your seat just right from the get-go. The screenplay was written by Beck and Bryan of Iowa. Go Iowa. We lived there for a few years. Focal point is his family in this small rural town and their farm. And they're trying to do what they have to do to survive. And all we're given early on in the film is that there's silence. They communicate through sign language, facial expressions, and they don't talk. There's not a lot of dialogue in this film. And with their young daughter that's deaf, you know, they they have to communicate, if it being walking or eating dinner or doing chores around the house, they're communicating through sign language. And it really builds that suspense because you don't know what's out there early on and what they're hiding from. And all we're given as an audience, this is what has happened, how many days later, with the world around them being kind of a ghost town. We don't know if there's any survivors or any people that are alive. It's a family getting through day-to-day life without making really any sounds. And throughout the film, we get short glimpses of these creatures kind of out in the trees. You hear the sounds, but we don't get like a full image of what they look like. We just know that they're out there. We can hear the sounds of them squawking and making noises. And this family has to do the best that they can do to survive. With the film, Emily Blunt is pregnant with a baby, and the kids are trying to, you know, help out as much as they can with John Krasinski as he's going out to find stuff for the family, food, and, you know, being a young kid and surrounded in this environment where you can't talk and you're frightened. You know, being a young kid, you don't know what's out there. And the kids are trying to just be kids, but also learn how to survive from their parents. And what's really unique about this film, 80% of this film is silent. All we have is the sound design. Most of the story is evolved around the sounds and them communicating with one another through body language, with sign language, with facial expressions. So there's not a lot of dialogue, which really kind of stands out to other films today. And that's why it makes it so unique, because when you're sitting in an audience at a theater, it's just complete silence. So people sitting next to you are trying not to eat popcorn and they're trying not to cough or make any noises. And with John Krasinski, you know, being a director, being an actor that's been in comedy and things like that, he went to a darker place, which is really fantastic these days. We're seeing comedians go to the thriller horror genre. And, you know, it makes a lot of sense. And it's really working out in 2018, 2017. You know, Jordan Peele with Get Out, and we have Danny McBride, David Gordon Green coming out with a Halloween film at the end of this year. As comedians, they have to go to a darker place for their comedy. So it really makes sense when you have a person like that coming into a genre, into a film like A Quiet Place. You can see that they put a lot of time into making it, to getting all the camera shots correct and the story, and just building that suspense to keep you on the edge of your seat throughout the first through the end of the film. And this is a great cast. I mean, the child actors were pretty phenomenal in this, you know, not giving much dialogue, but you could see the dread and terror in their eyes as they're frightened. They don't know what to do. They just know that they have to stay around their parents to survive and learn as much as they can, because they don't know if their parents will get through this alive. With the daughter being deaf and wearing hearing aids, John Krasinski, you know, he loves his kids, but his daughter especially is being deaf, and he loves her. He doesn't blame her for certain things that she's done, but no matter what, he's the father, that's his daughter. And he really comes up with some really cool ideas for hearing aids that has to do with parts of the end of the film. The kids, you know, kind of mess up and make a noise, but they're kids, you know, that's what they do. They're not always thinking, they're just about having fun and playing, and had some pretty close calls with the creatures out there. You know, it had some similarities to Signs, to Cloverfield, to other films like this, but it really stood alone on its own 2 feet, because it is very unique in many ways. The use of the story and not having a lot of dialogue or sounds, just the sounds off into the distance, and just creating this environment of this family and what they're trying to deal with in these times. This is a film that relies heavily on camera work, sound design, set design, to build that level of terror and uneasiness. With a film like this, John Krasinski, Emily Blunt just had a great chemistry. Obviously, they're married in real life, so they have that chemistry, but them on camera together was fantastic. Emily Blunt was a really standout performance in this, being a mother of these children, her trying to keep together the house while her husband's out trying to find supplies and things like that. In this farmhouse, they go out to a barn. They have like an underground bunker. Krasinski has all these like cameras set up, like surveillance cameras, and making sure the creatures aren't sneaking up on them. They have lights that turn on, these like really cool rustic lights throughout the cornfield in their house and barn and silo. And early on in the film, you see other fires off into the distance, so there must be other people that are still alive. They don't really go into detail, but that's not really the point. We're just really focusing on this family. With A Quiet Place, this is definitely a film that stands out in 2018. You know, there's not much like it. There's some similarities to other films. One of the few films that I've been to in the theater that it was complete silence throughout the hour and a half that the movie was going on. And it's rare to find those these days. You know, people in the crowd were not being obnoxious or anything like that. It's really a film you have to see in theaters. Really, the only complaint or negative comment I can make about this film was the ending. Everything up until the very end of the movie was really great. It really kept me involved in the edge of my seat, and it was a thrilling ride, but the end of the film just kind of lost me. It got really silly, and it just kind of ended. If they would have taken this movie and gone a different way for the ending, I really would have probably gave it a solid 5 out of 5. Unfortunately, the ending was just a little silly and it kind of lost me there, but everything else was great about this. This was a really great directorial debut by John Krasinski. He's an actor that I didn't really think he had it in him, but he really performed greatly in this film with writing this, directing it, acting in this, and bringing his wife into this film. The cast is really amazing with the kids, and the use of set design, sound design were really top notch, and maybe even worth an Oscar come Oscar season, but we'll see. We're in April, so this is definitely one of the better films of the year thus far. It did really great at film festivals. So far, all the critics have been raving about this, and it's definitely worth checking out. With that being said, I'm giving John Krasinski's A Quiet Place a 4 out of 5 silent earpieces. So what'd you guys think? Did you guys check this out over the weekend? John Krasinski, Emily Blunt in A Quiet Place? What'd you think? What'd you like about it? What didn't you like about it? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe. This is Logan Myerz signing out from Cinephellas Studios in the outskirts of Iowa. Shh. Cheers.